Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a super guest, and so Devin, yeah, Devin, my son is usually here, as you know. He's my co-host, but he's after COVID. I mean, I got to give it to him. He's so busy in the film industry and the performing arts industry. So he's rehearsing today and texted me last night. He said, "Dad, I can't make it." So I'm like, "That's cool." So I'll read the I do the intro for Devin here today. So here we go. Are you tired of all the self-improvement noise on the internet? Do you want to know the true path to mastering all areas of your life, such as health and wellness, wealth building, creating amazing relationships, spirituality, and how to keep all this going by maintaining healthy habits every day? Then that's what we're here to talk about today on Impact. So please welcome our guest and best-selling author, Kate McKay. Thanks, Kate, for coming. I really appreciate you being here on our show today.
I'm so pumped. And I'm so happy that I was able to meet and greet your community. So hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in to us as we play and hopefully pour in a whole bunch of value into your ears.
Awesome. And Kate is calling in. We're chatting to, you're in St. Petersburg, Florida today, just close to Tampa, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So hopefully the people down there are, doing a little bit better than a few weeks ago, because I had a friend that I was actually at a forum retreat with here in Vancouver, and he has a place down just south of you there, and he was heading there, and yeah, their place was flooded, and it was really kind of a tragedy the way things are going, and the way things are going. It's
Yes.
just
Well,
crazy.
Mother Nature at her
Yeah.
finest, and I think that
Yeah.
that was the part for me that was so intense is that I'm from New England. Yeah, I'm from
Oh,
Massachusetts.
right.
So to be down in this area and what I was so interesting to me was my response, which was we were evacuated because I live in this little tiny it's called Gulfport. It's a part of St.
Uh-huh.
Pete, but
Yeah.
super artsy, like everything is built like old bungalow style, very cottagey. Well, this whole area would have been wiped out if that storm came. And I had to leave. I went to the East Coast and I did a live video, and I was just, I all of a sudden I was like crying. I'm like, oh, I don't want
Yeah.
to leave my town. Because when you
Yeah.
find a place that feels like home, when you
Yeah.
find people that feel like home, it's an intense experience. And I think that it's
Mm.
been a long time coming into finding a place that was like that. So I was grateful that we were saved, and
Yeah.
yes, devastated for the people in the Fort Myers area for sure.
Yes, I know. Yeah, Fort Myers was, yeah, I saw it. It was really rough. So actually what we do on our show first is we do something we call two truths and a lie, which is always kind of fun to get our guests to kind of know or get our audience to know our guest a little bit better. So I'm going to read three items here, and two of them are truths and one of them a lie, or could be even more or less. Okay, so and I'm gonna have to guess which is the lie. Hey, Kate. Okay, ready to go? Here we go. Okay. I compete as a bikini model. I love it. So that's number one. Number two, I am a practicing attorney. Oh, okay. And number three, I built a multi-million-dollar company with zero business experience. I love it. It's like a bunch of us, a bunch of us on the here. Okay, so I am gonna guess. Oh man, I like the bikini model. That sounds pretty good. Um,
True or false?
I would say that's true, and I would say you're not a practicing attorney. That would be my guess for
Bing,
the
bing, bing, bing,
bikini
bing, bing,
model.
bing, bing, bing. You got it right. Woohoo!
Oh,
Yay!
damn, that's good. Yeah, love it.
Very good. I did a year of law school, but that was good. I was like,
Right,
okay,
right. Oh, I
I'm good
like
with
the
1 year. I had two
yeah.
young kids, so it was just not. I loved contracts. I've used it all the time in the growing of my businesses and such. But
Right,
yeah,
right. Okay, well,
yes.
let's get a bit of a backstory on some of this stuff, and I'll start with the bikini. The bikini, is it competitor model or
Yeah,
what? I'm not
I
sure what it
compete in
is.
bikini. So I
No
know.
way,
So
that's
I'm
cool.
older. I'm just a little bit younger than you, but I
Yeah,
started at the age of
awesome.
43 after
Huh.
I had my kids,
Wow.
deciding that I wanted to be in the best shape of my life. And I found the process of preparing for a show or a competition
Yes.
exceedingly spiritual, extraordinarily challenging, and
Mm.
I developed this extraordinary skill of hyper focus and being
Right.
able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it
Yes.
wasn't about winning the trophy, although I won a fair amount of those. It was about the process of what we need to release in order to step into our greatness. And it was
Right.
very
Right.
interesting, very monastic, and I still do it. So I've been doing it
Good
for
for
on and off for
you.
16 years. Yeah, if I have to
Oh
write a
my
book
gosh.
or,
Oh.
so yeah, I think you guessed that one because you saw my arms. So you were like, all right, she's, I bet that there's some truth
In
to
our
that one.
in our pre-chat, yeah, I saw the top of your arms there, like, oh, she's buffed. Don't want to get in a fight with her. Or my wife, who goes to, she's actually, my wife's at kickboxing right now. She goes
Right
every
on.
3 days a week or something with my daughter, with our daughter,
Women
which
rule.
I know, you women, I tell you, it's yeah. So that, well, that's really cool. And then and I guess we could talk about the business. I guess, I mean, that'll pop up here. But I want to talk about something that we've got some talking points here that you fired over to me. But I think this one is actually really kind of interesting, and it's kind of the first one that really hit me. Is that, coming out of this whole COVID lockdown thing, and people's confidence, like
Mm,
people's confidence. I mean, for myself and for friends, I've really noticed a shift in people's confidence. It's like we were locked
mm,
away, we were safe, we were in the safe place at home, and
mm,
now we got to go out of the world again. And people are a little bit, I mean, I get a little bit of anxiety at times on doing
mm.
certain things or going to meetings. I did my first in-person talk about my book about 2 months ago, out of COVID. And I mean, I hadn't done one for 2 or 3 years, right? And I was scared shitless. And I got
Yes.
up in front of all these engineers and what, and it was the most incredible experience. But I almost threw up walking into the room. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and I think a lot of people are dealing with something like that now. So how do we, kind of, do you have any tips or any input on or insight on how to kind of live with greater confidence and kind of, let's get back out in the world and kind of build ourselves back up, because we kind of got knocked down a little bit, for me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
You
that's
know
a worldwide phenomena.
yeah.
And I think that that's the number one thing that people often ask me. And that's what I've
uh,
heard a lot in my life is, Kate, how can you be so confident and enthusiastic? Well, I became this way in an evolution of many, many failures, and also many, much self-sabotage, self-doubt,
mm,
self-loathing, even on the
mm-hmm,
journey. I was
mm-hmm.
born with the two problem, too loud, too this, too that. Right? I'm one of 9 children. So being told to sit down, be quiet, I felt like I was a boy because it was
Uh-huh.
Mark, John, Joe, and Katie who were getting yelled at. So I learned to make myself smaller. I'm already a small person, but I was like, oh, my light offends people. My
mm,
boldness offends people. My
mm,
enthusiasm offends people. And so I had many, many years of playing smaller, yeah, throughout my life. And what
oh,
happened is, truthfully, what was the biggest catalyst for, I would say, my resurrection, even of really embracing the full light of who I am, was through the tragic loss of my son, William, in
mm,
2017.
oh wow.
William is my oldest son, Will,
Mm,
who
mm,
extended his own rights to free will and ascended on his own accord, as his
mm,
friends describe it, chose to end
mm,
his own life in the
right.
woods up in New Hampshire. And
Wow.
Will was deeply spiritual soul. He
Huh.
was in a monastery, and he was just the most grittiest person, but
Mm,
the most loving. And
mm,
to this day, I'm like, man, he chose me to birth through. I have a deep sense of honor in regards to that. Although the
mm.
grief, we're talking about the hurricane, how the
Yes.
power of the hurricane, it sucked me into this place of surrender, to which I made some really powerful choices.
Yeah.
And one of them was that I was no longer going to live out of integrity and dim myself, not for anyone. And
Right.
I was put here to do great things. God put me here to do great things. I am here to
Right.
initiate people into
Right.
their light and into their greatness. And
Yeah.
if I can model at 50 something, almost 60 years old, to be confident enough to go on stage with stripper heels and a sparkly suit,
Yeah.
if I can inspire and motivate anyone, that is my work in the way that I've built companies and built relationships and even transformationally dealing with the loss, because I
Yeah.
truly believe that great loss on the other side of that is the power to greatly transform if we're courageous enough to do so.
Step into it. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. I was similar to you as a kid. I mean, dyslexic, ADD, dragged out of every class. In those days, remember the old Bugs Bunny cartoons with a dunce hat? Well, that was me sitting in the corner,
Yes.
and dragged out. And I was terrified. I wouldn't put my hand up in class. I don't think I spoke in class, elementary school, high school, and even when I went to like college. I don't even think I asked a question. I was terrified of somebody finding out about me. And I lived my whole life like that. And
Right.
but then I came to the point later on where I was, I kind of was forced to get up and do a talk and whatever. And I actually, again, I'm serious, like I almost threw up, getting up
Yes.
onto stage. But then when I got into it and started sharing real life stories and real life things, I just, I don't know what happened. I just became like, I don't know, like a superhero, but I was just like, oh my God, I love this. This is super cool. And
You
just like
were a
the
you
energy,
were a
you know?
superhero, Nigel. You were your superhero. Absolutely. Do not diminish that you felt
Right.
powerful, that you felt
Right.
courageous, that you felt
Right.
confident, that your words matter, that you were here to make a difference, that you got to be your own darn way of your fear and the
Right.
limiting beliefs, right? And I
Right.
think this is a really important point because you brought it up about the whole post-COVID. And I
Yes.
left Massachusetts because of how strict they were in lockdowns, because I just was
Right.
like, no, I need to be free after my son passed away. So I
Yeah.
traveled across the country, and I'm a coach. And so I can
Yes.
coach off Zoom anywhere as long as there's
Sure.
internet. So I was able to take the ride. But this is the thesis, and this is really important for the listeners to understand.
Yeah.
With COVID,
Mm.
the first phase of COVID was this survivalship mode. Are we going to
Yes.
make it? Are we going to
Yes.
live? Right? It was like
Yeah.
this bizarre, freaky horror movie kind of experience, right? Where our
Yeah.
souls became fearful. The
Yes.
second phase, I like to call it the protective phase, that we
Mm.
became it a game of us against them. Vax,
Yeah.
no
Mm.
vax, mask, no mask,
Mm.
gay, straight,
Mm.
right, left. The world became extraordinarily polarized, a
Polarized. Yeah.
very dangerous position, a very dangerous position.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to think it's a higher statistic, but I truly believe that 80% of people are still in those phases.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And my call to action to any of the listeners here today is to understand that we have moved on to a third phase. And that
Yes.
is the game that's for the people that are being productive. The
Yeah.
sexiness of productivity. It may not be, but honestly, this is the time where we can have the greatest impact. This is when you can step in and be your highest and best self. This is
Right.
when wealth is built. This is
Yes.
when the people who are physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially most strong are going to be the helpers. They're the people that are
Yeah.
going to have the deeper sense of meaning, that we
Yeah.
are the ones that are going to have a sense of significance. So my
Right.
word today is, are you awake? Are you
Yes.
willing to move through your fear and your self-limiting beliefs, which are, I'm sorry, people, not coming from the outside, it's coming within you because
Right.
you are leaning into your own fear. And
Yeah.
that is the worst prison there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way worse than in your house hoarding toilet paper. Honest to God, right? Now, and I say that
Yeah. I
lightly, but
remember.
I don't take
I
my
remember.
work lightly. I'm in here to have deep conversations and bring the joy. That's my
Yeah.
life. I
Yeah.
go deep and I bring the joy. I'm
Yeah.
always laughing, but I'm not afraid of calling people out and loving people through their self-limiting beliefs, because I see greatness in every person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's lean into the great.
And
And this isn't Tony Robbins rah kind of
right.
conversation.
Right.
It's real. This is,
Yeah.
if you hear and I'm speaking to you, and whether I am pissing you off or you are loving me or you're not loving me, I don't have attachment to that. I do know that if you're listening right now, this message is perfect for you,
Right.
and it is your time to take action. Lean into
Yeah.
the longing, lean
Yeah.
into the unknown, and
Yeah.
find the right people around you that will hold you accountable to your greatness, not keep you asleep and comfortable. Comfortable
Exactly. Asleep
is a
and
kiss
comfortable.
of
I
death,
think that's
babe.
the kiss of death. Absolutely.
Mm.
And I think if you look back through history, um, that you'll find that in times of, like we had now with COVID or these great recessions and all these things, coming out the other end, that's where, you mentioned it, where the most wealth and the most I don't know,
Fulfillment. Yeah,
evolution
evolution.
of the
Love it.
human person's spirit
Mm,
has happened. It's been at these times. It's when we've been
absolutely.
coming out, and we're all worried about this recession. Everybody's kind of pulling in the ropes and pulling in things. But if you look back through statistics and history, this is where things really start to take off, after this. And it's like, we have this abundance and scarcity right now. Everybody's in scarce, they're thinking
Mm.
in scarcity, but there's so much abundance coming out of what has happened, and the re-evolution of the human beings, where, I mean, there's a lot of wealth that's going to be made,
And a
and
lot of
and
goodness.
a lot of goodness,
And a lot of
exactly.
goodness, because this is
Yeah,
the benefit of working. You and I have children the same age, and
yeah,
with the loss of my son, and my
yeah,
brother was
yeah.
murdered at the same age I lost my son.
Oh
So
my
I have
gosh.
lost a
Oh
lot
my
of
gosh.
young men in my life, and I'm a gym rat. I've been pounding weight since I was 21 years old. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
all girl,
yeah.
but I'm used to male energy and male vibe, and men
Right.
need support right now.
Yes,
And
we
that's the
do.
reason why I wrote Claim Your Inner Warrior.
Hmm.
Because, and it's especially for men, it's a short and sweet book, but it's for the warriors out there and the women
Right.
who love them. Men are not women. They are not supposed to be necessarily your best friend. That
Hmm.
puts up a red flag when I hear my wife or no, you are a man and a woman. That is a different unifying force, or a man or a woman, whatever the
Right,
love
right.
is that you share,
Sure.
right? They need to be the person that is the shelter in the storm, and they
Hmm.
have to hold the light on you so that you're your best self.
Right,
And that
right.
is something that is an honor. It's a way we honor other humans, is to
Yes.
hold each other accountable to our highest and best. There's we hear this quote, Nigel, that you're
Hmm.
our reflection of the five people around you.
Yeah.
No, actually,
Mm.
you are a representative of the five people you expect to be around you.
Right.
It's a very different
Love it.
call, isn't it?
Love it. Yes, that is absolutely. And when we talk about like the relationships. I mean, relationships during, COVID and whatnot have been through Zoom, and there wasn't a lot of interpersonal stuff going on. And also there's this thing has taken off over. I mean, this has been crazy. I mean, relationships through here, which,
In the
the
phone.
the
Yep.
posting, the all this fake, your internet persona, which isn't really real. um that's not a relationship. So how do we kind of rekindle, personal relationships with people? Because the personal, I mean, we're social beings. I mean, if you go back thousands and thousands of years, we would sit around the fire and share stories and listen to our elders and learn. But now things have kind of gone sideways. So how do we kind of
Yeah. And
create these healthy?
I guess I don't see it like that, which is so
Yeah.
interesting. And
Okay.
I think it's because I'm tapped into younger people, and
Right.
young people are realists, and
Yes.
they understand, and they don't have the same level of attachment as the baby boomers and like the older generation. They just don't. They see things
Mm,
like as
mm,
they are, and they don't
hmm.
have that, oh my gosh, love is all there is kind of thing. They understand
Uh-huh.
that there is hardship and there
Right.
is suffering, and that the commitment is to experience. And older generations will look at younger generations and be like, they're lazy. That they're not
Yeah. No, they're
lazy
not. No.
people.
No. No.
They're suffering the blows of growing through a generation that said you are what you have.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
the older generation's fault. Sorry. So
Right.
what is
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
responsibility of older generations respecting and honoring younger people?
Mm-hmm.
How are you
Mm-hmm.
showing respect for honoring the hardship that these kids were born into, where they aren't going to have the abundance, chances are, of the baby boomers? They're not,
Yeah. I know.
and you
Yeah.
buying them and co-signing and giving them this and that when they don't have attachment to the same things.
Yeah.
How are you honoring each other? And that is a
Exactly.
big part of this communication thematic that we're
Yeah.
talking about, is
Yeah.
like, how are we learning and growing and adding value to everybody, and not
Yes.
hoarding love, hoarding
Yeah.
our money,
Yeah.
hoarding it because someone's going to take it away
That's
from
right.
us.
Exactly.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a dangerous place to be. And
Yeah.
I
Hoarding
love
it so
you
it
in
goes
that
stagnant.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Hmm.
you in that space, if that's who you are. If you're listening, you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. Because it's element of all of us. It's human condition, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ego. But the surrender and the yielding to, I don't know, but I am willing to seek. is
Hmm.
a very powerful and freeing position. It really
Yeah.
truly
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a really good book also, written by a good friend of ours, Lynn Twist, called The Soul of Money. I don't know
It's
if
a
you've ever read of it.
fantastic book.
Yeah, and she's
Loved.
amazing, and she talks exactly what you're saying. It's like, these hoarding money, and basically what she says, it goes stagnant. It's like water. Water, if you
Mhm.
if you if you, hold back water and keep it in a pond, it goes stagnant. If you let it flow, it gets vibrant and it brings in nutrients and it kind of cleanses and does whatever. Same thing with money. It comes in and it goes out. It comes in and
It's
goes out.
energy.
And it's energy. It's all energy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
totally energy. I
yeah.
learned that because I built a company in the last downturn. I was in the
Hmm.
precious metals company. So I was,
Okay.
theater degree, stay-at-home mom, and I followed an idea and it
Yeah.
became a multi-million-dollar company. And I laughed
Hmm.
saying, all right, I did this, never taking a business class, and I was buying gold, in the open market, buying and
Yes.
selling gold in the open market on one hand, and flipping grilled cheese on the other hand, right? Because I
Right.
had three young kids. So my commitment was obviously to feed my babies, but I was also
Yeah.
buying
Yeah.
tons and tons of gold, right? But it's just so funny. I remember my son, who was in a different business, the smoking business, if anyone gets the hint, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But and so he was like, "Mom, whether you're proud of me or not, in the business I grew, I learned everything from you," because he saw how I ran my business. It was relationships. It
Sure.
was relationships. It was relationships. And I said, "Yeah, baby, but I don't like my product as much as you like yours." And we laughed, right? He gave me a dirty look, right? Because I didn't love gold. I loved the
Right.
relationships, where he loved the reefer and I don't, you
Sure.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, you're right."
That's funny.
But it's true. It's like the energy of gold. I mean, it served me, but I was able to give and receive it and create relationships based on that wonderful process.
Right. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's great. Incredible. Yeah. Yeah. And it is funny, when you talk about starting a business without any business experience. I mean, that's like myself. That's like most of the people in my entrepreneurs organization group that I go to in Boston. At
Yay.
MIT every year we have a conclave. It was a conclave. It was supposed to last 3 years. It's gone on for 18. I think that was
Did you
18th
go to
year.
MIT?
Well, it's an offshoot of MIT. It's actually one of their campuses. It's called the Endicott House. It's in Dedham. It's in Dedham.
Nice. I know the
Yeah.
Endicott Street. I
Yeah,
know where you
Endicott.
are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been going there every year for, yeah, like 18 years. And most of us, I mean, some people have been to Stanford and things like that, but a lot of people, they just kind of happened on something that they loved or some problem they needed, if they shot would fix, or and it just kind of evolved, and which is really, really cool. You know,
It's
yeah,
really cool. It's like, it's
yeah,
just, what is the problem you're here to solve?
exactly,
And you're in an
exactly.
evolution right now that you can move into a new place,
That's right.
right?
That's
With
right.
the support and knowing that you're here to add value. And
Hmm.
there's this point that I want to make when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of need,
Sure.
Maslow.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
and that was in 1940s, he wrote that, right? So the
Yeah. Yeah.
highest form on the top of that triangle was, oh, like Buddha said, I'm awake. Like, it's like
Self-actualization. Yeah.
self-awareness, right?
Hmm.
Oh, wow, okay, I'm just consciousness, whatever. But really, we've moved beyond that. And
Right.
there needs to be a new diagram. And that is, we are here to add meaning and significance. Happiness is fleeting.
I love
Maybe
it.
some people seek
That's
happiness. That's
so true.
okay. But it's a fleeting experience, right?
Yeah.
It's, are you adding value? Are you making a difference? Is your life have some significance? And that's
That's
not like,
right.
oh, we only have one purpose, because we don't.
No, no, we have
It's like,
many.
it's
I
wrong
went
to think, yeah,
Exactly. I went down that path about 15 years ago, your purpose, your purpose, your purpose. I'm like, oh, what is my purpose? And I was like, oh, my purpose is to protect the world's
drum
oceans.
roll.
Great. So I run off and I'm like trying to protect the world's oceans. And oh, my purpose is to help the poor. And which was really cool because I was running around doing all this stuff. And then it got to the point where I was able to set my business up to run without me in 2012. I mean, I'm involved, but I'm not. And I kind of stepped back. And then it was just like, okay, I'm going to go save the world. Right. It's just like, and then you
Yes.
get involved in all these things, and all these people, then they get attracted to you, but some of them not for the right reason, because they think you're giving money. And so, and then you go through that process. It's a process we all kind of go through. And then you kind of evolve again into another person and another thing and another. And it's just this continually evolving thing. But I totally agree that we're here to serve. I think the happiness thing, I get the most happiness and joy out of when I'm helping or serving or going for a coffee with one of my kids' friends. that's thinking about what, starting their own business or going to a school or whatever, and just sitting there and then hearing them and just giving my sharing my life experience just for 10-15 minutes over a coffee, or speaking or whatever, or volunteering at a soup kitchen or whatever it is. I get more joy out of doing that than anything. And
Mm.
I just it's serving. I'm like, I don't know, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I'm kind of working my way up into this. But I think just serving, it's just something you can't
Well,
even
it's
describe it.
self-honoring to honor your wisdom and to
Mm,
honor your gifts. And
right.
so it's sometimes it's like we hear, oh, self-love, self-love, self-love. Well,
Right.
what does it mean to self-honor? And what
Mm,
does it mean to self-respect? I mean, I'll use those words actually more than the self-love with my male clients because they get it. They're like,
yeah.
oh, this is how I self-respect. This is how
Yeah.
I honor the self, because that is really from that warrior essence of who we are. Because
Right.
those are thematics, right? For men in particular, is I'm here to protect. No matter innately, that's men's job. Innately in a man's heart, he
Right.
knows we
Right.
as a culture have taken that away from them when they
Yeah.
come home from the military. Don't work, just relax, you're our hero, but don't do anything. We're going to give you money to do nothing. How's
Right.
that suicide rate showing? Come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Men
Yeah.
are here to
Exactly.
serve as women are, but men are here to be filled with honor and self-respect. And as we're coming into November, which is
Yeah.
the month of Movember for a great organization
That's right. Yeah.
dedicated to suicide prevention and men's mental health. And I did 30
Yeah.
interviews last November in honor of my son and all the warriors out there.
Yeah.
And this is a great time to have these conversations because men right now are struggling. It's like the amount of suicide that where men are getting left out of our society. It's a
Mm.
tragedy. And we need
Wow.
men to be warriors because women need warriors and we are our warriors and our goddesses in our own right. But
Right.
this is a really important time to have conversations with men about what they need, because that's even a
Yes.
weird thing to ask a guy. They'd be like, what are you talking about? I don't
Yeah.
have
They don't
any.
want to talk about it. I know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
here's the list. Let's read them together. And they're
Right.
so uncomfortable, but that's the work. If I can
Yeah.
open up one guy to actually connect into where that courage really lies
Yeah.
beyond the fear of exposure, fear
Yeah.
of judgment,
Yeah.
that's what gets in the way of us living courageously.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I know. I worked. I had a coach for, oh my gosh, 15 years or more, and it was the same thing. I was like, well, I had this pride. It was like, there's no, I don't need it, and it just came to a point where I had like a business consultant, kind of a coach before that, and then he basically said, Nigel, I can't, because I'd call him up and I'd go for breakfast all the time, and I would talk more about the personal stuff than business stuff, and he goes, this is way out of my league. You need talk to this guy. So I worked with Kevin Lawrence. I think he's a scale up coach now. I worked with him for 15 years, but it was we just kept working through all of this stuff over and over and over and over and
Yes.
over again, year after year after year. And I can't. I mean, I'm one of these person that should probably be up waving the flag on coaches and selling coaches. Coach, I'm not a coach, but it's
You understand the
invaluable. It's
value of it.
invaluable. It's
Yeah,
invaluable. And if I had
because
known,
because the
if I had
people
known this,
around you aren't going to be the
yeah,
ones that are going to be
no,
cheerleading
no, no,
you.
no, no.
And
It's the
that's the
people
thing.
that,
We have this misconception, don't we?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the people around you are either going to be nodding their heads or they're going to be, it's
Tuning
just,
you out. Oh, there they go
yeah, yeah,
again.
exactly. Where these, I mean, they held your feet to the fire, and really, really, and the thing was, I designed a like a life map of what I wanted my life to be like. Not
Mhm.
anybody else, not what anybody else, what my parents, not whatever, it was what
Awesome.
I dreamed of, and my immediate family. And we went through every single bit of it. And we got to the last point, and I talk about this. Last point was being able to set the business up to run without me and take a year off and travel with the family around the globe in off grid, right? And
Amazing.
that was in 2014. And so 2012, I set my business up. 2014, my coach called me. He said, "Hey, we got one last thing on this list, Nigel. Do you know what it is?" And I'm like, "I can't even remember." And he goes,
A
"Oh,
book.
oh yeah, there's the book." And then the book came out of the trip, and he says, "Is take your family and travel." I'm like, "I don't think that's
Oh,
even possible. Like, how am I going to do that?" And he goes, well, ask your wife. Like, and Reiko, she was in the kitchen here. Just, I was in the other room, and I yelled over, and she said, let's go. We put it together. Within 3 months, we were gone. We had no plan. We didn't plan it. We just took off, and we took our kids, and we traveled backpack, one bag each, gone for a year, and it was the most incredible experience. But I would not have been able to do that and be able to that was my dream at that time, was to be
Yes.
able to do that at that time in my life. And without the coach, without him holding my
Nope.
feet accountable to
Right.
everything, I would have just meandered my way through life.
Yes.
And I don't know where the hell I would have been. I would probably be in the institution or something. But
Yeah, but that's odd. Well, you wouldn't be the
you
man you
know,
are now. We wouldn't
no,
be sitting here right
no, we
now.
wouldn't be having this
No,
conversation.
and you wouldn't be able to necessarily say that you have such a rich relationship with your wife and your children as you
Right,
do. You
right. No, I
glow
know.
in that
Yeah,
relationship,
yeah,
which
exactly.
was seated once again, seated in that year together where you were in this
Yeah,
position of building true, authentic relationship with your family. And I honor
yeah,
you very,
yeah.
very much for that.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you. Thank you. And it's and it wasn't that difficult to do. The most difficult thing was finding somebody to look after our dog.
Isn't that something?
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Everything else was all in my head. Everything else was all in my head. And people, oh, it's so expensive. Not really. It's cheaper than living here. To, you can
Yes.
go and you can go in Thailand. We were in Myanmar. We were in Colombia and Argentina. We were all these places where it's, the cost of living is, a quarter or a
Yes.
fraction of what it is
And you had
here,
the best food, I bet.
and better food.
Woo!
So
Yum.
yeah. So there's something that I think is really, really key. And we talked about it in my forum group meeting 2 weeks ago here. I had a retreat with my EO forum group, and the one for Boston. And we talk about all this stuff, right? We talk about all this stuff, but I think one of the most important parts of this whole thing is getting into the rhythm of just doing it every single day. And our brain, I found, for me anyway, once I get into a routine of doing, like what I do now is in the morning I get up and I do my stretching, I do yoga breathing, and I got into the cold water plunging. I do the cold water plunging, like the Wim Hof stuff, and the exercising. But then then there's the business stuff and everything. But it's like this routine. And once you get flowing in this, it's like it just happens. I hear so many people talk about, I want to lose 20 pounds. And every time you talk to, I got to lose 20 pounds. I'm on this diet. I'm back and forth, back and forth. It's like, well, if you're on this daily, if you set these things up, you just get up and you just do it. And it gets really easy once you get into the flow of doing it. So you got any tips on helping people
So what
kind of
would you say? I'm going to
get
ask
into,
this,
yeah,
Coach Kate, and put that back to you. So
Coach Kate.
what would you instruct people to do? Well, first of all, you know that so many people don't do it, right? And it's just whatever that is, whether they
I
have
know.
a core belief that they're not worth it,
Yeah.
or that they're too busy, they're not a priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all very selfish responses, by the way. I hate to blow everyone's bubble, but if you
Right.
don't have time to take
For
care of the
yourself.
holy vessel that you were given in,
Yeah.
and you don't have time, what I would say to you is show me your schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Show me your schedule. I've tried everything, Kate. Really?
No.
Do you have an
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheet? Let's go over it. Oh, no.
That's right.
Okay. Right. No, you haven't tried everything, right? That's
Yeah.
just excuses to delay your goodness.
Yeah.
So I would just
You know
throw
what,
that back
I
to
find
you.
that I find that I've always been, I always have to get my bike rides in, and I've just been kind of wired that way. But during COVID, I kind of rediscovered kind of, the power of breathing and some yoga
Mm,
stretching. And then, I do the Wim Hof, the cold ice thing. That's my own thing. But I was getting some anxiety attacks,
mm.
and and so then my son, Devin, my co-host here, he was doing a lot of research into Wim Hof, and he said, Dad, lay down, let's do a breathing exercise. And I did it. And then we did a cold plunge, and then I got right into it. But it totally not zones me, but mellows me out for about 3 hours.
Mm.
And I just like, I'm floating and I can take on the world. I can even go with my wife to Costco. Like it's that
That's
good.
something.
That's
Well,
something, right?
the
So
neuroscience behind that is just that when you do that process, it's opening yourself up to your dopamine channel, which is
right,
the
right.
core of all creativity, which is highest in the morning. So the routine,
Okay.
yeah, it's all about the dopamine. So
Right.
when you are, any of you listeners, when you're feeling extraordinarily challenged, oftentimes it goes back to the really simple, small practices,
Hmm.
of exercising, water, journal,
Water,
pray or meditate,
journal. Yeah.
and set your day. Set your
Yeah.
day. You can wake up cranky, but you also have the power to choose to change that, right?
Yes.
It's the choice principle that you really
Yeah.
do have a choice. I could have easily, after my son passed away, rolled up in a ball, became an
Yeah.
alcoholic,
Yeah.
became a victim,
Yeah.
or I could wade through the grief,
Yeah.
wade through it, go all the way and roll around in it, and then decide that it
Mm.
was my time to rise. I
Mm.
made a choice to do it different than my mother did. Was that
Right.
easy? Hell
Mm.
no. Anyone on this listening think life is easy?
Mm.
No, it's
Mm.
not easy. If you're expecting things to be easy, good luck. You know
Mm.
who thinks and wants life to be easy? Everyone in prison, right? People who are dead way before their time,
Right.
right? Those are the people that want the easy life, the meals brought to them, right? It's like, you don't want easy. You
No, you
don't
don't want
want
easy.
easy. You
No.
got to do the hard things for you, though.
Yeah.
What do you need
Yeah.
to let go to do the hard things for you, to
Yeah.
care for you?
Yeah.
And we want to say again that we want to push against all the things that are on our exterior, like how people are restricting our freedoms, right? You're restricting your own freedom by making choices that doesn't serve your highest and best. If you want
Mm-hmm.
ultimate freedom, turn that willfulness, that passion, that desire to change the world within, and
Yeah.
start there and
Yeah.
realize the true freedom. Ooh, it's bliss to
Yeah.
be free and to be
Yeah.
able to really fully understand that you're in charge and that you can choose every
Yeah.
single moment. It's another moment
Yeah.
to rebirth yourself into your highest and best.
Yeah. I know your question was is how, how did I start doing this, getting into this rhythm and whatnot. And it just seems like what we just talked, it seems so overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, I like listen to these two guys talk about this. It's so overwhelming. It's like uber baby
Yes.
steps. Like I've
1
yeah,
minute of meditation.
that's it.
You're talking to two people that were freaky ADHD, like
Yes.
literally freaks.
I
Okay.
know.
I'm calling each of us out.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean,
Absolutely.
literal freak ADHD,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Me
beyond. I'm
too.
still a
Yeah.
walking
So
example
is
of it. Right?
Devin, my son. He's the same. We're
Yes.
like carbon copies of
Yes, but we
yeah.
learn how to channel the greatness of ADHD. Is it a detriment? Well, it was. Is it a
Yeah.
detriment to you and I now?
No,
Not
it's a
to your
superpower.
life.
Yeah. It's a superpower.
It's my superpower, right? But
Yeah.
it requires us to be able to channel and focus on process,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
time expands. This is what I
Yeah.
want people to understand, is that
Mm.
when you function in a system, it is the ultimate freedom. It's not a restriction.
Mm-hmm.
Time expands, money expands, love expands, peace expands in structure.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And one little bit, I found that, I, like you said, the meditation, like I never meditated. I know I was walking with my coach years ago and he says, oh, the new thing is this is 15 years ago. The new thing is meditation. Everybody's meditating. And I'm like, okay, like, what is that? I mean, I do some stretching and yoga and a little bit of whatever, but meditation, I don't know. And I just kept putting it off, putting it off. And then Devin laid me down and it was like a little bit of breathing, Dad, a little bit of breathing, and then kind of getting, and then the meditation. And then but the thing is like you said, 1 minute, but just set the time that you're going to get. You say you
Yes.
got up
And
at,
celebrate it.
you get up at 7 a.m. every morning. We'll get up at, 6:30 instead, or whatever it is. That little bit of, and it's your time. There's nobody else in the house. It's quiet, and you can come and you just go. And I found that I get right into the zone, and then I add a little thing to it, and then I add another little thing to it, and next thing you know, then I'm doing. Now I've got this hour and a half thing that I do every morning, and I finish, but I'm not allowed to have my coffee yet, but I get up earlier, and my wife does it too. Reiko does it too, and we do all of our breathing and our stretching and our little bit of meditation, and then I finish off with the cold plunge. Okay, cold plunge, or go into the end, or a cold shower. Cold shower works, and then you come out, and then you just feel like $1,000,000. It's
Right.
unbelievable, the power,
It's
and
a
how
buzz.
the buzz, how calm you are. Then I get to have that's my treat, is I get to have my coffee after I've
Yes.
completed.
So, the whole thing behind that I want that listeners to
Yeah.
understand is he delays the dopamine hit of the coffee until he's finished all the yumminess of his morning ritual.
Right.
So your dopamine, if you're getting a quick dopamine hit, quick satisfaction like that, you burn yourself out. You're just chasing the adrenal buzz. But if you actually delay something like his coffee, how good is that cup of coffee?
It's damn good.
It's delicious,
So good.
right?
And then we're not eating.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't imagine, going and not eat. I mean, we're doing this a little bit intermittent fasting. So we don't eat, until like noon or 12:30. My brain is totally rewired to accept that. I don't even feel hungry. I wake up. I'm like, we have right now I've got lemon water. Wake up just to flush my kidneys or whatever when you first lemon bit of hot lemon water. And that's it. And then I do everything. But the thing is, it's like you start with the baby steps. And then the thing is, when you start with the baby steps, you crave for another step. And then once you build, and then you crave for another one. And then next thing you know, you've got this incredible routine. And then you get it. It's just like everything gets into the flow, and it's really,
so
I wish I knew this. I just started doing this like a couple of years ago.
Same.
I wish I knew this when I was 20
late,
or 18 years old. I wish I was, my God,
It's never too late. Think about all the years and all the productive and all the impact that we're going to have, So I just want to mention, just as I know we're getting close to our time, but I have a new book. It's my bestseller. Claim your inner badass.
Claim your inner badass. That is,
I'm super excited.
This is a re-release, right? Re-release of your best-selling
book. Yeah.
Love it.
And then I also have Claim Your Inner Warrior, which is my book, especially geared towards men. And it goes with my third and fourth book, Claim Your Inner Hottie. And that is my fitness and wellness book, because I go and speak about like my company, blah, blah, blah. And people are like, how do you look like you do? Right. So I'm like, all right, I do have a system. So I write the system down in that book. And then I have Claim Your Inner Peace, which is a journal. So it's all dedicated to my son, Will, and all the other amazing people out there in the world. But
fantastic. And you have your podcast. Don't forget about that.
And I have, Survive to Thrive is what I started in right at COVID. And then I have Master Your Life with Kate McKay. And that is just all talking about people's stories of grit, determination, and the power of transformation. We are our stories. And it's important that we share them, because people are waiting to hear our story. They're waiting for the uniqueness that you are, dear listeners. And I'm just grateful for this time we shared.
I love what you say about sharing stories. And we've all got our own, everybody's got their own story. Everybody has their own story. And I just think it's really important. I was going to do a talk a few years ago, and a good friend of mine, Bob McKeechee, said to me, and I was scared again. I was terrified. I was like, Bob, I don't know. All these people are coming. I don't know. He goes, Nigel, stop. I guarantee you, nobody in the audience has been deep into the Amazon and spent time with the Oshawa tribe and, done ceremony and whatever. They're going to love your story. And I'm like, yeah, but he goes, no, shut up.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And so we all have our stories, and people think nobody wants to hear that. Yes, they do. There's so many people out there that want to hear that story about whatever you've learned. They're waiting, and it's a disservice.
It is,
if you're not sharing that story with them.
Preach it.
Preach
it, Nigel.
Preach it. Damn.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if anyone wants additional information in regards to me, you can definitely find me at kate-mckay.com. I'm a big Instagram girl, so I am Kate McKay. And all my books are on Amazon.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Kate. We really, really appreciate it. And I just wish Dev was here. He's going to listen to this right after. And, thank you so much. I will. I'll give him a big hug for you. He's coming over this afternoon. He's got acting class tonight, so he drops by here. And I'll give you a big virtual hug too. It was fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much. And what we'll do is we'll post everything at the end of this podcast, so you can get hold of Kate. You can get all her books. You can listen to her podcast. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you again to you, listeners. We really appreciate you. We couldn't do this work without you. We see you, and we hold you in your greatness. So go out and do great things. You're worth it.
Absolutely.